Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Just enjoyed the seminar with you.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that. It was a shame you missed it. It was nice. We were saying to a couple of the guys that a lot of the seminars that we've done recently have been the more kind of recent stuff, the younger athletes, like the leg entanglements, the no-gi stuff. It was nice just to do some old school gi pressure.
Yeah, the thing is, if you look into a gym, when you walk into a gym, you're going to see the majority of the people there training are not really flexible. Mm-hmm. They're not very capable of inversion. If we think about them, how many people here would be at the seminar today could invert, like a few only. Maybe the brown belt that was showing the techniques and a couple. Mm. So the majority of the people, I think they react much better when you do just the basic techniques. Obviously, not every seminar has to be just basics, but it does help because every single person can do pressure pass, even the kids.
Is that what you done today, pressure passing?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but really good detail around it. And it was good because it was quite a mixture, wasn't it, on the mat? Yeah. So you had like kids, you had white belts right through to, what do you have, like 5 black belts in the room as well?
Yeah. So you have to show something for the white belts, but you also have to show something for the black belts.
Yeah, we finished with a knee bar, so you would have liked it.
Oh, I would have liked that, yeah.
Yeah, the dog bar, yeah.
But yeah, it was good, and I think that's probably why I enjoy it, because I'm one of those people you speak of where I'm quite limited with my flexibility at the age that I am.
Quite limited.
Yeah. So I think it's nice, but again, I think just some of the fundamentals that you cover, just the grips, the pressure, the control. I think it's great, and it's nice to cover that sort of stuff. So
yeah, and you're saying about the flexibility. I think the hip flexibility is what makes your game, what decides your game. So if you're not very flexible, and you have short legs like me, mm-hmm. So I would say half guard is your game. Mm-hmm. If you're very flexible, you're probably going to get away with spider guard that we were talking before. Yeah.
Hey grapplers, we are now sponsored by X Marshall.
X Marshall have sent us some new quality British design rash guards. These are just the British designs, but they do loads and loads of really cool designs. They got the OnlyFans ones, they got the Hillbilly ones, they got the Pornhub ones, they got all the
Game of Chokes.
They got all that sort of stuff, which to be honest with you just don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, 100%. And they also specialize in not just no-gi, but also Muay Thai as well. So if you're cross training and you want to pick up some Thai boxing shorts, and that's the place to go as well.
Genuinely really do like them. I think they feel really nice. That's what I like about them. They feel really nice. They got the band at the bottom, and I've took them for a spin and they sweat up quite nicely.
And better yet, guys, we've managed to secure a really good discount for our audience. So if you use our link below, then you get an automatic 15% off of everything on their website.
Get that up, look, so they can see that shit.
Let's get into some of your background, because obviously we know who you are. You're a bit of an OG to sort of Jiu-Jitsu in the UK for sure. But you're obviously I think head of ZR UK, is that right?
UK, yeah.
So we mentioned, I mentioned on the drive over, but we always like to go back to the beginning, like look at some of the origins. So tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you ended up where you are now.
My study with English started in the year 2000. I arrived in England in the year 2000. In the airport, and I tell you what, the moment I came here, I felt like it looked like the Seattle, the state of Washington.
Okay.
It was a bit rainy, and I felt like, and I loved Seattle. I lived there for a couple of months when I was young, when I was much younger, and I was like, so I felt kind of like at home.
Right.
I love the music from this country.
Yeah.
So I felt like right away I felt a connection here, and but Jiu-Jitsu here was completely different than what is now. There's a lot of stories about Jiu-Jitsu and how Jiu-Jitsu developed in the UK, about like romanticizing the stories of Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of the old coaches liked it, but the reality was just everybody was terrible. There was no, because you see, like in Brazil, people were actually fighting for Jiu-Jitsu, right, to prove that Jiu-Jitsu worked against the other martial arts. But when Jiu-Jitsu came to the UK, it was already proven already. So we didn't have much to prove already. What we struggled was, like we were saying, was the books. Remember, we struggled to get books. We didn't have DVDs. We had a couple of VCRs that we could watch Pride or UFC. So in those days, it was a completely different thing. So when I got here in the year 2000, there was one guy teaching Jiu-Jitsu, a Brazilian guy who was a charlatan teaching Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, no way.
Here, yes.
What, just got his black belt on the plane on the way over, yeah?
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if he got it on the plane, but I would say that man never trained jiu-jitsu prior to him arriving in the... I would be very surprised. So when he came to the UK, there was not much going on. Obviously, at that time, let's put it that way, Roger Gracie was a purple belt. Mm-hmm. And I believe his dad came here already, if I'm not mistaken. And I heard stories of. I saw this gentleman. He moved. He left the country. He went to Barcelona, and I watched him when I was a blue belt. And I had a feeling. I said, I don't think this is. I mean, I wasn't very knowledgeable. You know, I was a blue belt in the 90s. You know, which is different than now. So I was like, I don't think this guy is doing jiu-jitsu. So I witnessed a little bit. I left the gym, and then he got exposed at the time by the father of Roger Gracie.
Did he?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually exposed. What did he do?
I don't know exactly how he got exposed because I wasn't there, but I heard stories that he got exposed and he left the country, and a lot of people started training in a couple of gyms that were here at the time, mostly in West London. Mm-hmm. So the gyms were in West London. It was very amateur, very, very, compared to now, very amateur.
Yeah, and when you arrived in the UK in 2000, did you say you were a blue belt at that point?
A blue belt, yeah.
And when did you start training back home in Brazil?
I thought 1997.
Okay.
But then a friend of mine said, no, I have a medal from us competing at a tournament in 1996.
Right, okay.
And I had one competition. My first competition ever was in 1996. And I lost in my first match, I lost in 30 seconds. And to make it worse, I tried to fight my opponent on the mats after I tapped, which I brought all the attention to me at the time. So the second time I competed, my coach actually came to me and said, do you want to do a next competition? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, surprised. I'm like, whoa. I said, it can't be worse than the first one. The second competition I was doing, it was in a very small judo academy. And I remember I was winning the competition. I could hear my friends, excited. And they were like saying, wow, you're winning. You're doing really well. But then the referee was my coach and started arguing with the other coach. And then they started to have a fight in the middle of the mat. And then I couldn't get my medal. So it was very difficult, my time as a white belt, in the beginning. But yeah, it was different times as well,
Yeah. So what age were you when you first started training jiu-jitsu roughly? Do you remember?
Well, I'm not very good with math, but I believe 23, 24. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess fairly late in life compared to some.
Yes. Yeah, because jiu-jitsu also, it didn't exist in our area in Brazil. Jiu-jitsu was more of a thing like Rio de Janeiro. Yeah. Maybe a few other states, but Rio was the big thing.
Yeah.
But we didn't. I mean, it came the same way it came here was through DVDs from UFC.
Okay. So who were you up until 23 before you started jiu-jitsu? What were you into and what were you doing with yourself?
It was a different era. It was a very difficult times, not difficult times. I would say I wouldn't, if I go back, I probably would do everything again, but because we had a good time in Brazil, but it was an era without not much information, not much internet. I wasn't poor, but we lived in a very deprived country. And it's a very dangerous country as well. I wasn't really good academically. I wasn't very good with sports. I wasn't, I was less below average, to be honest, And I was very sure that my entire life would be just working in low-level jobs, So that's what I was very worried about. And it was later on in life when I started teaching jiu-jitsu that I realized, okay, this is something I can do well, and I got this, So some people find this through music, some people find this through sports, some people, my case was jiu-jitsu, that helped me to have like a dream job,
Yeah, it is a dream job, isn't it?
Well, it was when I started, let's put it this way, is when I started teaching jiu-jitsu and making an income out of jiu-jitsu is when I kind of won the lottery,
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, amazing. So about 4 years of training, give or take, and then you decided to jump on a plane, come to the UK, as you said. Yeah. Why the UK? Why not?
No, I didn't go to UK. I went to Spain first.
Right, okay.
Well, I went to the north of Spain, which is a place called the Basque Country, which is it's autonomous region in Spain.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a bit separate, aren't they?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
'cause
yeah,
of
yeah,
football
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah,
yeah.
Atletico de Bilbao, right?
Yeah. They don't have even transfer their players out of their teams, and they got to be like Basque born and stuff like that.
Yeah, you have to be Basque born or Basque blood to be playing in the team.
It's cool. It's cool, but they're very passionate about. They basically want it to be some sort of sovereignty.
Yes, and they have their own police. They have their own language. You know, they have their own flag.
That must have been cool. That must have been cool to live there.
Why there?
It was, you know, I wanted to do some studying because what happened is this, like, everybody's telling you need to study something and you don't know what to study. So imagine when you're young and you
I've been there,
don't
mate.
have that much. You're not very academic at all. You know, like you don't learn things academically. You learn things as you go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You nodded when I said that, so you're probably similar, right?
Yeah.
We learn as we go.
Yeah.
So for me, academic was, because of the pressure from family and friends, which is a normal thing, especially in the 90s, you know, everybody had to be an engineer or a doctor or a, you know, lawyer. Obviously, I would not be any of those three. So something like, okay, why don't you do tourism? I know a good college of tourism in Bilbao. So
Class.
I went after that, but obviously I didn't get to the college because it was just not good enough. So it's just, so I couldn't, but I was there. I lived there, and I spent some time there, and then I got an opportunity to go and live in Malaysia. So I lived 10 months in Malaysia, maybe less, or I would say 10 months will be, and then from Malaysia, I came with my friends. I met my friends on the travels, and I came to England.
And I assume you weren't training much, if at all, during that period?
No, I could train because, there was like not jiu-jitsu gyms like now, right? Like, so when I went in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, there was just no jiu-jitsu gyms.
Yeah.
When I was there, just wasn't. And now there's loads. But so also in Bilbao, there was a judo gym. So I could go to a judo gym, and I went to a Jeet Kune Do gym in Kuala Lumpur once. And it was a terrible experience. I submitted the coach, and it was just terrible. He wanted, I was a bit worried as well because they have very strict rules in that country. So it was just like,
Get out of there.
yeah, get out of there. That's it. But yeah, and then I think is when I came to England, there was a few gyms, already, one or two gyms already. So it made it easier. Also, in England, we had, in Ladbroke Grove, there's a big wrestling training where a lot of the guys from London Shoot Fighters started. A lot of the coaches from London Shoot Fighters started or were training there at the time as well. And there was a Turkish guy who was teaching wrestling, and that was my first contact with actually freestyle wrestling, because obviously in Brazil you don't have wrestling.
No.
We still don't have good wrestling, but it was my first introduction to wrestling, and I just loved it. So in terms of grappling, it was very good compared to the other places I was, you know.
Who were you sort of training under from a jiu-jitsu perspective at this point?
Well, I was with my coach, Ze Radiola, which is the same coach that I have now.
Yeah. And was he in the UK at this point?
No. He was in Brazil the whole time. But when I came to the UK, he wasn't here. So I just had to find a place for me to train. And lucky, after that, Charlton left. They decided to remove everybody's belt because he was giving kids belts as well to adults and charging £50 in 2000, which is probably £200 now.
That's mad.
Some of the guys moved away, and they was training in a small hotel in Earl's Court with Matt. The one guy owned the hotel and managed that place, and that's when the guys from Carson Gracie started. Carson Gracie London and all the gyms, started from there, and I was there right at the beginning, and it was great times. It was very innocent, I would say. Very, we were very naive now, looking back now, you know.
Yeah.
But it was, when I think back, it was great memories I have, you know.
Yeah, and what was the, I think Jamie mentioned earlier that there was, I think you were with GP or part of GP, and then it obviously switched to ZR.
Yeah, well, Ze Radiola, my coach in Brazil, he became member of GB, of Gracie Barra. But in the UK, at that time, there was no Gracie Barra.
Right, okay.
Because, Braulio Estima wasn't here already. Braulio Estima was a student of Ze Radiola. I don't know if you guys know who Braulio Estima is.
Yeah. We've had him on.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast.
Yeah, he's a student of Ze Radiola. So he's from the same hometown as I am. And he, I knew him at the time, and I said, why don't you come to? He said, I want to come to London, England, and he came down. He stayed at my place for a couple of weeks, maybe, and then he moved to Birmingham. And this is when Gracie Barra started, but I was already with Carson Gracie at that time, you know. So I would say Gracie Barra, if I'm not mistaken with dates, obviously, probably 2004.
Okay, yeah.
In the UK, something like that, you know, 2003 maybe. But then there wasn't, and also the way to communicate with people like we communicate now, it was either through Messenger, or you had to make a phone call. And that phone call, I don't know if you guys remember, well, it was like very expensive, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so it was difficult to communicate with your coach all the time and things like that. So I was just training here, and we lost contact for a long time until he left Gracie Barra. And when he left Gracie Barra, I was like, okay. I messaged him, and we started ZR Team in the UK in 2014, 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did he leave GB?
Well, allegedly. Let's call not GB, BG. So we don't have, so I don't get in trouble. So there's obviously a lot of, there's some people that complain a lot about their structure, right? That they make it mandatory for you to buy 2 gis belts. Apparently, you now have to have a bag as well, or their own brand, and you send a curriculum to your instructor, so he has to teach from that curriculum. Mm-hmm. So, for example, let's say you're teaching today, and you decide you want to show some smash pass that you learned from me this weekend, and Monday you're like, no, you can't. You have to follow the curriculum. So that and a lot happening. Ze Radiola likes competition. He likes. He helps a lot of people there in Brazil. He helped me. He helped Braulio. He helped Max Carvalho. He helped so many athletes back then. And it was going a little bit against the ideal of what he believed in, you know. So he broke from the BG team.
Yeah, I think the syllabus is. I kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's a martial art. It's like quite expressive. So a coach, if you're really good at certain positions and movement, you should be able to put that onto help your students get that. Whereas if it's generic all the way across, it must just be like, you know what I mean, just a bit of shit, really.
Yeah, and let's say I go to a tournament and I take 5 white belts and I see all of them making a mistake. I can't show that mistake on Monday because we have to follow a curriculum. So it's completely absurd, you know.
That is what
in my eyes. So if somebody's doing well and listening to this and you guys are doing well with curriculum, well, that's good. Let me know. Send me a message.
Yeah, okay. And so sort of 2015, so about 10 years ago then you sort of formed the ZR
I would say
team.
around there. Look, I'm not the best person with dates, okay? So I have to sit down, look at my phone and check when was the photos posted.
Doesn't matter, honestly.
I know, but just in case, I would say 10 years. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say 10 years.
And the ZR team now in the UK, how many sort of affiliates have you got? How many gyms?
We don't have that many. We have we want to keep it like that. And a lot of the reasons was learning from my students who had affiliates. For example, in Northern Ireland, like in Belfast, we were talking Belfast. I've been going to Belfast for a few years now, for many years, and I love that place. And there was one day that I went to teach a seminar somewhere else, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, look, can we be part of the team?" And when I came back to Newground, where the ZR team affiliate is, they were like, "Well, we prefer you don't have these people in the team in Northern Ireland. We rather give an opportunity for our own students, like the young purple belt who actually wants to open the club, to have like an opportunity for him to open a club in these areas."
Oh, that makes sense.
So let's say, for example, some gyms will just open. Oh, you want to be affiliated to me? Yeah, great, awesome. Oh, great, I love it. We're like, wait until your student kind of graduates, because it's going to go a little bit like the principal as well. When I was in 2010 in Colchester, and I had to tell, for example, Taylor's mom, he's going to make it I just didn't know, So I was gambling,
Yeah.
And it was a risk. It was a risk for him. It was a risk for me because he didn't have money for a very long time. But now he has a very successful business and he's doing very well traveling the world. But it wasn't like that in the beginning, There was I don't know if you guys want to, there was a Foxcatcher. You know the Foxcatcher,
Yeah.
that movie?
Yeah.
We had a Foxcatcher in Colchester as well.
What?
Yeah, I can't say the name, but we had a Foxcatcher, yeah. You watched the movie, right?
Watch a movie, yeah.
For those that haven't, you might have to explain this.
The Foxcatcher, well, the real story of the Foxcatcher was a wrestling team that this multimillionaire, John DuPont,
Yep.
moved them to his ranch. And he was a very strange person, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And was obsessed by the fighters, and he was not athletic at all.
No.
And he ended up murdering, well, we didn't have that. He ended up murdering one of the wrestlers, David
I can't think of his name.
Schultz, wasn't it?
Schultz.
That's
David
it.
Schultz. And seemed like a great guy. And he shot him in front of his family as well. It was
Crazy,
very tragic.
Yeah.
Horrible. And they made a movie and a documentary. And I would say if anybody wants to watch the Foxcatcher documentary, you will understand better than the movie.
I've watched both, yeah.
Yeah, I watched both. The documentary explains much better. Even explained that all the money left from DuPont after he went to prison was left to one of the Bulgarian wrestlers as well. So you heard a lot of that money in the documentary says that, you know. And well, yeah, like in Colchester, let's put it that way, maybe 2009 and 10.
Yeah.
Like the boys were like skint, and I was in a very tiny gym.
Yeah.
And one of my students owned the gym where I was teaching at the time as well, because obviously I couldn't afford the gym, so everything was very difficult at the time. And then suddenly this guy just shows up, and he didn't look very athletic. And you have to understand that the gym we had in Colchester is not a gym that we have nowadays. The gym that we had in Colchester was like, let's put it that way, 20 competitors, and that was it. And one white belt. No women. Like, it was like completely politically incorrect today. It was the different time. So this guy walked in, and he just didn't look very athletic. He looked a bit older, and he wanted to train with us. And he said to me, I actually want to finance everyone. So if everybody's flying to the Europeans, if everybody's traveling to Lisbon or any other competitions, I want to pay for the boys. He was very strange as well. And he started doing privates with the boys. And the boys were like, oh, I hate the private, but I need the money because I want to compete. And he used to transfer me money to my account so I can buy the flights for the boys to compete. And it was just, it was a very difficult time. So you understand when you watch the movie, the difficult, because you just say, why don't you just beat him up? Well, it's not like this, right? You
need his money.
You need the money. You need to compete. It's your passion, So your passion is so big that you... So what happened is one day, lucky enough he's gone, but when the day he left was like, he said one of Taylor wrote something disgusting on Instagram. Oh, sorry, it wasn't Instagram at the time. It was Twitter. He wrote something horrible on Twitter. And I was like, what did he write? And I was worried, like, let me see what he wrote. And then I said, sorry, I can't read what he wrote. Did he delete it? And I read, let me read this loud. Is this what you're upset? So he said, Taylor wrote, I drank so much last night that I feel like a today. And he got offended by that. And I was like, okay, so you know what, mate? And he said, my 8-year-old actually read this Twitter. I said, your 8-year-old has Twitter? So at that point, I was like, okay, man, you know what? Let's cut the funding and before this gets worse, So, yeah, so we never seen him again. But he was a very strange guy,
And just randomly was like paying for everything.
Paying for everything. He bought superhero rash cards for each one of the boys. So he will buy one, an Iron Man, Superman for the other one, Captain America. I think Taylor was Spider-Man. I don't know. It's very cringe, yeah. But it was it's part of the story as well. And and when people struggle, any little bit of help, especially in jiu-jitsu, well, we were talking about a blue belt now recently making some money, right, in the show. Yeah, blue belts now make money in
yeah. So like I'm doing a 5K tournament. That's crazy, really.
That's incredible. That's incredible. At the time, the boys had to do their own reels, and it was terrible because everybody did it in a BlackBerry, and and it was very difficult. So I'm really happy how jiu-jitsu is nowadays. It's so much easier now, for anybody that starts and want to be a professional.
And I think it's going to keep growing as well. I think the kids coming through, there's got to be more money put into it, because I think most people who come into jiu-jitsu enjoy it. So as a sport, and as it's not the best spectator sport, I think, but just people participating in doing it, I think it's got to keep growing.
And one thing is interesting, and the difference between the generation of 2010 that I noticed, or 2009, and now, would be that back then, most of the kids that were training jiu-jitsu, even though we had nothing, they wanted to be grapplers. Nowadays, they want to be grapplers, but they also want to go to university or they want to have a career, which is great, which is great, fantastic. I'm not criticizing. But this is a big difference.
Yeah, I think that comes from parents as well, though, sometimes, doesn't it? It's like, you know, you still
Times are changing.
Like you said with Taylor there, you probably had a few difficult conversations with his mum saying, like, you need to go do this, you need to go and do that, you need to earn money, you know? But if they're super talented and you know at some point it's going to get him a lot more.
Yeah. Well,
It has.
It has. It worked, but it was, you know, there was no, like, guide book to say, this is what you guys are going to do. You know, so you just have to guess. Mm-hmm. Kind of like we have a small little podcast just for us as well in the Essex area. We were gonna call it the Essex Podcast, but now we call it the Reef Podcast, and it is a lot of trial and error. Like, you know, like for us was like that. So we're white belts in podcasting. You know, you guys are obviously black belt second degrees. You know,
like that. Maybe purple belts. I'd say.
But yeah, so. And seeing this as well makes me like, okay, so maybe we'll do a little changes as well when I get back, you know, home. It's great. Yeah, I love it. Because this is a time as well when you do podcast that you can actually chat with someone without checking your phone once. Yeah, it's nice. You can have a proper conversation, meet someone.
How often does this happen now? Never.
Yeah. It's nowadays, you know, even I have to say I'm a bit guilty as well because I got a lot of stuff. My bank account, everything is on my phone, right?
Everything.
Like.
I think it's not even a phone anymore. It's a computer, isn't it? It's a pocket computer. Yeah. That's all it is. You know, I say it to my wife all the time. She goes, "You're on your phone again." I said, "Yeah, but I'm not actually contacting anyone. I'm looking at, you know, I'm trying to sort out our reels, our Instagram, you know, like you said, online banking. You know, you're researching stuff. Why would I go and sit on my office and do it when I can just do it while I'm sat on the sofa?"
We're cyborgs, mate. We're augmented. It's basically an extension now, isn't it? This is it. It's part
and
of
the next step's into your brain, isn't it?
Yeah. But people used to say back then they were going to install how do you say, pins on us and sensor chips on us. They're gonna, and they have already.
Well, yeah, Neuralink.
It's the phone, but it's the phone. The phone is already.
Oh
the
no,
chip.
but Neuralink's done. That's the next step. They've done that. Yeah. That's. Oh wow. All in America. Look out. That's crazy.
Probably in China they.
No, it's
Elon.
It's Elon. Yeah,
oh, wow.
It's done in Neuralink. Yeah, so he's connected basically a computer to people's brains now, so you can move stuff on a screen by thinking it.
Yeah, scary.
That's crazy.
Potentially exciting for some, but scary.
Yeah.
But anyway, we digress a little bit. Tell us how you, because obviously in jiu-jitsu you often see competitors or sort of coaches or competitors then later becoming coaches.
Yes.
So you've obviously talked about Taylor Pearman a little bit there, and you've got a number of amazing athletes that you've coached over the years that have competed at a very high standard and achieved amazing things. So when did you start coaching? When did you start going in that direction?
Yeah, again, it was because we didn't have that much competitions then. I mean, I did compete a lot, but there was only one competition every 3 to 6 months. You have to understand, and that was a lot competing back then. So if I competed 3 times a year, that would be great, you know. And I'm talking about also 2010, you know, 2009. There was not that many competitions like it is now. Maybe a little bit more than 2000, but it was so. Because I couldn't be competing a lot and making an income out of competition, I had to say I need to coach if I want to be part of jiu-jitsu. And I started as a purple belt to teach in Colchester in 2008, 2009 in Colchester. And it was more because I just needed an income. And the opportunity that I got in Colchester out of all the places was because a former UFC fighter, Claudio Silva, was the guy teaching in Colchester. And he came to me and he said, I don't want to go there anymore. It's too far. Do you want to take those classes? Right away, I said, yes. Yes. I didn't even know where it was. Colchester? Where's Colchester? Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
How do I get there? And I got the train, went there, and I walked into the gym. When I walked into the gym, I went to the mat area. I went back to the reception and I said to the reception, I said, I don't think there's no one here. And the lady said, no, they're in the mats waiting for you. They're on the mats waiting for you. I said, those people are training jiu-jitsu on the mats? And she said, yeah. I said, okay. So when I walked in, there was a guy with jeans and shoes on the mats. 2 12-year-olds and 1 lady. And I was like, okay.
Got some work to do.
This is my class now. So I I started like this in Colchester, you know.
Oh,
so
God.
again, the idea of me becoming an instructor, I was thinking, right. So what I'll do is I'll get a little bit of experience in Colchester, and when that fails, because it will fail, I'll move to London and start teaching in London. But it went really well. Yeah. And I tell you something, it was thanks to a movie. Yeah.
What movie?
Everything was not going well. It was very quiet. And obviously, you walk into a gym in Colchester where everybody done Kung Fu. There was no really grappling when I was there. If somebody hears and says they're one of the listeners, then please let me know if there was someone else. But there was no one really. And then people will walk in and they will say, well, where's the punches? You know, where's the backflip? Where's your ninja uniform? And instead of that, they see this small Brazilian guy. Hey, my friend, how are you? You know, and they're like, okay, I don't want to train here. So it was really quiet for a while. And then suddenly everyone watched at the same time, Never Back Down, the horrendous MMA movie, which later I found. And everyone agreed to come at the same time. So when I walked into the gym, I was like, whoa, what is going on here? There's like almost 20 to 30 people in the class. And then from then on, it was...
Yeah, I remember that film. It was so good, wasn't it? Back in the day.
How old were you back then?
I was a kid, yeah. That's what I mean. It was so good. When I watched it, I was like, oh.
You would have probably trained with me if you were in Colchester.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So like, for example, now you can plan more your career better as a coach, you know? So for example, if there's a structured gym, so for example, there's one of my female athletes, her name is Fernanda. She's competing now at the World Pro this weekend. She makes a living out of Jiu-Jitsu. She's a female purple belt, which is fantastic. And she makes a living out of Jiu-Jitsu, which is
amazing. Isn't it?
Amazing if you think back 2009, especially 2001, would have been impossible.
Yeah, it never happened.
But now she makes a living, and you know it's she's a full-time jiu-jitsu coach in London.
Amazing,
yeah.
Where did you find like the sort of first early success with the students and with the coaching? Was it with the younger kids like Taylor's, or was it across the board with adults and kids?
It was a mixture of many kids young in the gym. You know, we had I have a student called Lois Marshall. She went to the final now this weekend in the World Pro as well. A purple belt adult. You know, it's a big achievement. She submitted 3 girls and went to the final at like an incredible competition. Lost to Melike Galvão student, which is from Manaus, the Amazon, just by 2 points on the final. You know, so. These kids started at a very young age as a competitor. So if you put enough dedication, if you teach him, let's say, the skill, which is the basic skill for anyone that can watch a video or a DVD, say, okay, I can pick this up. Because if the skill that you choose to show is just like nonsense, for example, I let someone pass my guard to try to submit them or make craziness like that, and that's what I'm teaching, my students will not move from that. I won't progress with my student. Mm-hmm. I can get some tricks in tapping someone like that very quickly, which I met in the past. Someone will mount and I'll try to Ezekiel someone from the bottom. You get that person once and that's it. But that's your skill. That's not the right thing to show to your students.
That's how I lost to my first competition. Remember that? He Ezekiel'd me from the front. I swept him, come on top, and he Ezekiel'd me when in white belt. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah. From the bottom. He was on the bottom and Ezekiel and you in the mouth. Yeah.
He nearly put me out.
But that's a one-off. That will never happen again.
That's
even
what I
in
said
the gym.
I was like, I didn't even know what was happening.
Somebody fiddling with your neck, you're done now, you know? So I believe the basics is, what is the basics, right? Which the basics is, what the point system really is, what you got to show a takedown, guard pass. Sweet. If you're just showing submission, you're just doing snappy, stiff technique jiu-jitsu. But if you show, the skills that they're actually going to use in competitions, then that person will progress. And there's nothing that I think is more grateful to see someone not just becoming a champion in jiu-jitsu, but also making a living out of jiu-jitsu, because this is the thing that I struggle the most. And now seeing everybody so quick, and they don't have to go through the jobs that I went in the past. Now they just have their jobs of jiu-jitsu, which sometimes you don't appreciate so much what you actually have. Mm-hmm. You teach a class for 1 hour and 15 minutes, you're done for the day, mate. You know? So they don't know what is working 8-9 hours, in a pub or something, So yeah, it's fantastic that the kids nowadays have that opportunity, and I really hope that jiu-jitsu keeps growing. A lot of people actually think about jiu-jitsu growing even more by bringing to the Olympics, and I think that will be probably our downfall.
I don't think they should.
I don't think it should ever.
You look at Taekwondo. It's like the worst thing ever happened to Taekwondo, that, wasn't it?
Is that because of the potential rule changes in that?
I think the potential rule changes, the control of the committee, which is, if every time someone says to you about a committee, to me, in my eyes, I'm sorry, are people that don't train, that love the paperwork in martial art. And you can see a lot more in traditional martial arts, right? Guys that sign cards, sign belts, they're never training, they're my age and they don't train, and they just like to do the paperwork in the committee.
Yeah. Yeah, well, those committees, like, you look at judo, and they got rid of all the foot trips. Well, that's apparently now coming back again.
Yeah.
So that's on the cards now.
Yeah, because no one is training judo anymore.
No, because it's become boring. Because it is only those, big throws. But again, if people stall, it's so easy just to kind of like stall and keep all of the grips.
Just imagine yourself in the cold November in a hall, church hall, with little mats. You have to set up the mats and doing 50 throws and having to bow to every single person every time you get there. Nobody's doing that anymore. So jiu-jitsu, you walk in, there's music, the instructor, right? They play music when you spar. Everybody's chilled. You can sit down if you're tired. I think it's this is why it's so addictive. It's not just the technique. It's the whole atmosphere.
What I loved about it, I only started a couple of years ago, so 32, 33. And coming into it, doing jiu-jitsu, I feel like my body's not going to be completely broken if I don't want it to be. It's if you go and do judo, I feel like it's a harder sport. There's no two ways about it. It's a harder sport. It's a harder sport on your body, technically, everything. And to be really good at it, you've got to be on it full time. Whereas I feel like jiu-jitsu, you can... I don't know. I just feel like as an older guy, you can enjoy it a little bit more. You're not going to get hurt as much.
Just pull guard, right?
Yeah, just pull guard and just
half guard and
basically do what I do.
Yeah,
but you can protect your body doing that. You might get a bit of a sore back or niggles or someone puts on something a bit hard. But again, if you get your ego in check, you're not really going to get those injuries. You get the odd one, but you can stay relatively injury free.
Literally something that we covered in the seminar today at the end when he just showed some stalling stuff basically.
Yeah.
And then we rolled at the end because I was a bit protective of my ribs, and he was like, all right, we'll just do the stalling stuff, and he just grabbed hold of me and I just basically moved him for 5 minutes.
Really?
My advice, if you are over 45 and you're training, because I'm 50, and I train from Monday to Friday every day. I don't miss one day. Unless I'm traveling and I physically cannot be at the gym, but if not, I'll train. If I'm injured, I train. And the way to do it, if you're that age, is not trying to match out a 22-year-old blue belt, or someone's extremely athletic. There's a purple belt from the army who came in guns blazing at me, and I was just like waiting. It took me a while for the half guard to sweep him. I'm not rushing. If you rush is when you get and you're older, is when you're going to have your fingers injured, your neck is going to hurt. If you take your time, you're very patient, you're just laying there, you're waiting for the person to get frustrated, because if he's young, he's going to get frustrated. Oh, I hate going with this old guy. And when he starts pushing you, that's the moment you start passing his guard, So, for example, we go to a camp in Balaton. There's almost 400 people in this camp, in the summer camp we do in Hungary. And let's say... I go there, I'm an older black belt. You have this queue of young guys. Coach, can I go with you? Can I go with you? Sure. Lapel, lay, put your head down and just rest. Don't try to tap every single person on that camp, because you're going to get injured. Now, obviously, if you're a high-level athlete and you're young and you're strong and you're doing strength and conditioning, go for it. If you're older, you have to really watch out how you train. Because one of the number one reasons of people quitting, in my experience, is injuries.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people, especially at white belt, they end up quitting because they go too hard too fast. Yeah. They get rib injuries. They get stupid little, a knee injury, or they get something, and then they just quit. Yeah. And it's like, I've seen it. I've only been training a few years, like I said, but the amount of people that are still training from when I started is not many. There's a few, but it's not many. And they've all quit through injury, pretty much. It's usually I'm just out my wrist or something.
I would say moving places, boredom, injury, having a difficult relationship with the coaches, that as well. But I would say injury is the number one cause. And also what happened is you are a white belt and training with your training partner for a whole year, and you always beat that training partner. You take a long break because of an injury. When you come back, that kid is going to beat you. That's it.
Yeah.
You're gone.
It. How many people are like that though? Well, you said that to me before, didn't you? He had a couple of years out.
Yeah.
And he was like the longest serving purple belt ever. And and when he come back, that was one of the things you said to me, wasn't it? You was like, I'm dreading rolling with XYZ because I used to beat them. And now I'm going to come back, I don't train for 2 years, and they're going to smash me.
Yeah, and especially because it was periods when we were doing MMA, so the training was rough as well. So they've probably been sat waiting for years for me to come back so they can just beat me up. But, you know, I just sucked it up and got through it, and it's all right. Still going.
But you can see that why people do quit, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, especially, I think it's even harder again. Imagine like being a black belt and having 4 or 5 years out or something and coming back and you still got that black belt, but really, you know, you're so rusty, maybe out of shape, you know, and then you got dickheads like me training twice a day, wanting to smash it just to want to, like, you know, can I keep up with this black belt?
It's a really good point, and I won't name them, but I know an example of that, a black belt who's had quite a lengthy hiatus now, and I'm not sure if they're ever going to come back to training for that reason.
Really,
especially because they were quite a competitive black belt. So when we fought Taylor actually at purple belt, and very aggressive, like athletic style, and now they're a little bit out of shape, and I haven't seen them for 8 months.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I'm ever going to see them again. I mean, what's your advice to people maybe that are in that situation that are kind of on the fence about coming back or not?
If I'm going to tell you just to sound good, it's not a problem, just don't have an ego, I'll be lying.
Yeah.
Because I would be feeling similar, right? Who likes to go to a gym and get mauled by every single person? Obviously, if you're a white belt and you just started, that's the only choice you have, right? But if you're a black belt, it is difficult. But I would say this. For example, in my gym in Reef, in Chelmsford, we have black belts who are 45, 50. What do? I have them choose their rounds. I don't do pick up a partner, everybody. Because then that jacked competitor, blue belt, who just submitted everyone at the London Open, I want to feel good about tapping this old black belt, you know? Because then Alan is going to give me my purple, you know? So I would say it's very important that you choose wisely your partners. I said today, I don't go 100% every day as well. I train every day, but I don't go 100% every day. It doesn't mean I let people beat me, but I'm not going, I stall a lot during those some days. And some days I actually go with Tommy Yeeb, for example. I go with good black belts as well because I want to see how I am. But the rest of the week, I'm going with blue belts I can beat. I'm going with purple belts I can beat, usually. I'm going with like that so I can maintain my training every single day. Because if you're older, that is what you're looking for mental health and for your physical health, you know?
And if you are that older guy, you know, maybe, I don't know, purple, brown belts, you know, progressing, and do you think as a coach, like as the person who's belting them, do you think that they have a different prerequisite to get to their belts? You know, so you got someone like me maybe who's a bit more aggressive and young, and then you've got a guy who's 45 and 50 and he's going through the belt system as well. Do you feel they are graded differently?
Yes, 100%. And you cannot compare your belt to someone else because your journey is a different journey than someone else. So there's a lot of criticism online about not good black belts and stuff like that. You have to understand that this man is 52 years old. He works in, let's say, Barclays Bank. He's got 3 kids. He's got a grandson, and he trains twice a week. And then you have another kid who is 21, no family, no job. I sponsored him in the gym so he can train full time. Completely different journey.
Yeah.
It's a completely different journey. And it's up to the discretion of the coach who's experienced enough to spot that and see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I always ask because you hear we get so many different answers from different coaches, don't we? So it's
my students actually come to me and say, "Look, Alan, there's this guy is a purple belt. He's been training for a while now. He's a great guy. He spars hard." Actually, one of the kids in Middlesbrough said to me, "But we want to give him the purple belt, the brown belt, but he's not really good, man. But he's such a nice lad. He's been training for so long now." So just award him the brown belt, man. Because what happened is, what do you expect him to do? Birimbolo?
That's what I mean.
X-guard? seriously, what is he going to do? He's not going to do that, man. He's not. His progression is going to be very limited. Is he sparring with everyone? Yeah. He trains. He's he's consistent in the gym. Or he goes with let's say a very small guy and he hurts them. No, he's great with everybody. He trains. So I think that's one way to get a belt as well.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. That's exactly how, in my head, like it should be done.
But the problem is you overgrade someone as well. That's another reason that people quit. Mm-hmm. So you give a belt too quickly just because you get excited. And a lot of new coaches, they do that. They see someone, they're like, whoa, I just got to grade this guy because he's doing really well in the gym. But he's doing really well in that bubble there. You don't know yet. Just relax. It's too soon. That guy knows he's been overgraded. And there's no such thing anymore as undergraded is okay. But overgraded is like, you quit.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Like I definitely felt by the time I got my blue belt, I was like so ready for my blue belt, and I was happy that, you always talk about it, don't you? Basking in the glory of being the best white belt, the best at your belt. And I really enjoy that saying because it's true, because, you would being in that position, in competitions or just going anywhere. I was quite enjoying going to other gyms, and then I was still a white belt, and then you would, beat up a purple belt and they'd be like, what was going on here? Like, fucking hell, and that was quite a nice feeling.
Yeah.
But again, there's people that I know that have been promoted after 8 months or a year and then still not great. And then they go elsewhere and they just get absolutely trashed.
Yeah.
So that must be just shit, isn't it?
This is the importance of cross training. I started doing cross training with my students at a very young age when they were in Colchester, and I used to bring them to London to train in different gyms. They used to come to London shoot fighters to train with actual fighters, and it was a big eye opening for them as well, because you have to think about Colchester in 2010. There was no one there, so isolated. So are they good? I don't know. We bring them down to some gym in London, Carson Gracie, London. We used to bring there a lot of black belts then, and that helped them to progress a lot. That cross training. And
why do you think people don't like cross training?
Oh, there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I went through scenarios. I went through some really good coaches, and I went through some not so great coaches in the past. And one thing that I always said to myself is I will never put impositions on people's lives, like making a phone call and say, "Where were you last night? Were you training that place?"
Yeah.
I would need to have a word with you. That's we don't need to do that, man. Not today, not now, not in my team. And I do think it's like a confidence thing, obviously. Is you just have zero confidence in your ability. And when you're at home, you sit down, there's something missing. You're not a good coach. You're not good enough. And you're afraid of that person leaving, that you put so much time in. You put so much effort in that person. And you know that if he goes to another gym, the guy's like, oh, man, just come down. Yeah, you can, no problem. And that's...
Yeah, that better.
Yeah, that you're going to lose him. So the GH team, remember?
BGs.
Yeah, BGs. The BGs, they actually are making their own tournaments now because they don't want people to go around bullpens in the competitions and speaking to other people. Because what happened is I have my BGs, I have my BGs gi, and I see you with a showy roll. And I was like, wow. So your coach allows you to wear this? Yeah. Do you have to bow to a picture every time you walk on the mats? No. Do you have music when you train? Yeah. I'm leaving. So then they decided, you know what? Let's not have people talk to people.
How do they do it with sponsors? Like, we've just been sponsored by Ex-Marshall. And obviously their rash guards are outrageous. They got to do some amazing rash guards like OnlyFans and all that sort of stuff. Really funny.
Choke up.
Yeah. Just amazing rash guards. Like, I would see that if I was in that, and I'd be like, I want to wear those fucking cool rash guards. I don't want to be wearing just a plain white with a shitty badge. You know what I mean? Because it's quite expressive, isn't it, a rash guard? And even a gi. Even a gi could be quite expressive, There's nothing... one of the lads in the gym bought a really nice through dark one, and I think you've got the same one now. And I was so jealous when I seen that. I was like, that's the coolest fucking gi I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But again, if there's...
Oh, but you're not allowed to buy it, yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes this is the thing as well. Remember when you were a white belt, complete beginner white belt, and if you walked into the BGs, you would just think, this is how jiu-jitsu really is.
Yeah, you would, yeah.
I just don't know. And then you walk into the mats, the instructor is there, you need to bow to him and ask permission to get on the mats.
See, all that sort of stuff from the outside
That's a power
in.
trip, yeah?
Yeah. From the outside in, that was what would always have put me off coming.
Yeah.
So I was quite lucky that I found a gym that wasn't like
Yeah.
that. It was more just like, you know, an MMA type, you know,
Yeah,
it wasn't
or
like
like a
jiu-jitsu,
grappling
but
gym.
yeah, it felt like a grappling gym. Like I could go there, shorts and t-shirt when I first started, and I felt quite welcome, and it wasn't bowing and
I tell you
all
something.
that sort of stuff. In the modern world, I think that's way more inviting.
We go back to the 90s, right? Where jiu-jitsu, well, I seen the birth of jiu-jitsu in my hometown, right? In Brazil. It was like, I'm telling you, music, chilled, relaxed. Hey, my friend, come down. No problem. I forgot my gi. Okay, just shorts, you know? And then this is how it was, because it's a Brazilian sport. I have a theory that jiu-jitsu evolved so much because Brazilian jiu-jitsu is an unorganized martial art, and Brazilians are unorganized people. That's why it evolved. Because let me tell you something. When they were creating Brazilian jiu-jitsu back in the 80s, and someone said, can I do knee bar? Yeah. Okay. Can I get the lapel, wrap it around someone's leg, and keep? Yeah, sure. So I think it's because of how laid back was and how unorganized Brazilians and casual Brazilians are. It actually allowed everything. So what we do today, I don't think is jiu-jitsu anymore. I think we do mixed grappling arts. Whatever work in grappling, we'll do it. Because if you show me now something, I learned this move in Krav Maga. I'm like, okay, can I see? Oh, actually, okay, Monday, it's on the curriculum. You know, you know.
You see it a little bit as well with competing, right? So we just talked about trying to keep people sort of in that space so they don't get exposed to other ways of doing things. Sometimes you see it with competing, I find as well, where gyms might just go to more of like a self-defense approach instead of competing. Is that something you find as well?
Oh yeah, I have a theory. Yeah, I tell you something. Like I said, the choices of techniques that you teach to your students, they have to work in the competition. The guard pass, the sweep, you have to study. And you have to be humble to ask someone, say, I just don't know how to do the lapel guard. Can you please show me so I can show my students? That's it. That's how it's going to work. If that doesn't happen to you, you're going to take a student to a competition and they're going to lose 1, 2, 3. What is it left for you? Self-defense. Yeah. Do you know what? That guy's going to pull guard in the street.
Oh, no.
So I know I'm going to start doing self-defense. And I say, just because I do grappling, it doesn't take my inability to punch someone in the face, mate, you know?
We talk about this all the time.
Yeah, we're just going to punch harder because we do weights and train all day, you know? Yeah, so the self-defense thing is actually, if you can't make it as a competitor, what is left for you is self-defense. That's the leftover.
Yeah, we have one in the city, and it's pretty popular. They do really well. Yeah. But I always say when someone says, "Oh, they go down there," and what we do, I was like, it's a different thing. Yeah, it's a completely different thing because it's
choreographed.
One of my friends trains down there, and we were rolling recently, and I put him in K guard, and he just had no clue about it. I was like, he was like, "What was that?" I was like, "It's K guard," and he was like, "What the fuck's K guard?" I was like, "You've never heard of it?" He's like, "No, we'd never do that." And again, it's a different sport. It's a different thing, you know.
Yeah, and I don't mind that because I think something's for everyone, right? But I find sometimes those gyms will kind of mock more sport jiu-jitsu, if you like, and that winds me up.
I think it winds me up because if you put someone who does sport jiu-jitsu and someone who does self-defense jiu-jitsu in a cage, the sport jiu-jitsu guy's going to win every time.
Yes,
100%. And they'll say it's for self-defense, and it's 100%.
I would even go far as a cage. I would say, let's say you are in the bar in Middlesbrough, and you bump into one of the boys there for purple belt, adult, and you do the Rex Kondo, you're going to get beat.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
The moves are choreographed. I've seen people teach self-defense with a plastic gun. Obviously, it's a very different thing, someone pointing a plastic gun to you than a real gun. You know,
I just don't. Again, like that
sort of
scenario. Yeah, you're dead. Someone's got a gun, you're dead. We watched it on the self-defense championships. You ever watch that?
No.
So we had a guy on called Rokas who's amazing, but he runs a YouTube channel called the Ultimate Self-Defense Championships, and on there they do the shank tank, which is they get like a martial artist in. The other side, they got a guy with like a fake knife, and it's like a pen, and they've got to basically not get killed. And how many times they get stabbed? Like it was
like 44 or something.
44 times, like without any. You couldn't even get. And these are like professionals. Some of them are like professional MMA fighters, or top karate guys, or whatever it is. And when I think about that now, if it's me, when I think about a knife attack or something, I'd probably just run. I think I would do everything I could not to engage at all.
I had the unfortunate when I lived in Brazil to get robbed. Obviously, Brazil is a very dangerous country, and people will rob you. And I had the when I was like 16, 17, or somebody putting a gun in my head, and I just froze completely. I mean, when the guy had the gun, someone else came from the bar and said, "Let him go. I know this kid. Come on, let him go." And he pushed the gun gently from the guy, and he told me very quietly, "Run." So I run through the beach, and there were like rocks on the beach. I didn't feel absolutely anything. I ran through the rocks. I got to my house. I couldn't even open the door because I was in such big stress. And it's a completely different scenario of somebody pointing a gun at you in the gym, who you know, with wearing a a gi or something.
Well, I just think it's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do, mate. One thing that helps if you're in Brazil and you're walking around and somebody wants your wallet, give your wallet and try not to look them in the face. That might help, not getting shot. Because sometimes when you look at the guy in the face, they're like, "What are you looking at, mate?" And that's the problem.
Really?
So that might help of not looking at someone. Just put your eyes down, give the wallet, phone, yes, don't talk, and that might help you.
Yeah, and I think this is the danger with some of these self-defense schools, right? Where they potentially give people this false sense of confidence.
I didn't even think of that. That's even worse, isn't it? Yeah. Thinking that they're going to take this gun out of their hand.
The biggest problem is because in Brazil, we don't have that much because people actually see guns more than here, right?
Yeah.
In America, people know about the dangers of guns because we don't have a gun culture here in the UK.
At all.
Thankfully. We, if you're in, I've done 6 months of Krav Maga, you're walking in London, some guy on drugs just push and says, "Give me your wallet." You're like, I remember that, and that's it.
Yeah, what makes me laugh as well a little bit is... A lot of these people who do this as well might be like middle class or higher class people, learning a bit of self-defense and that. But me and Paul are both from real shithole areas in Plymouth, and we grew up, pretty rough.
Exactly.
And you kind of know that sort of stuff isn't going to fly. You're just like, and it does annoy me a little bit when, they push this sort of agenda on people and people that just don't know. They're not, they're living in nice areas.
Jamie, the Millwall supporter, doesn't give a fuck about your belt, mate. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah, he's going to cut you.
Middlesbrough hooligan, he does not care. The pikey that lives in Camp Prevent in Middlesbrough, he doesn't care about your belt, man. He got punched in the face too many times,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. How important do you think competing is for people's progression in jiu-jitsu?
Oh, I totally promote a lot. I don't force it, obviously. I used to, okay? Not force it, but I used to push a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I push less now because we have more students, and there's just people that don't enjoy it, and that's it. And there's no way convincing. But I do think it's important. And in my eyes, it's like this. Let's say you are in university, right? And you're studying anything in university and the engineering. And the professor from university comes to you and said, "You know what? You passed. Don't worry about it, man. It's okay. You're not going to come to classes anymore, and you're not going to study, are you?" So this is what happens in jiu-jitsu. If you don't have any goal, any exam, anything, you're just not going to show up, man. You're just going to say, okay, I passed already, so I'm just fine with my half guard there in the gym. That's okay. So it's fine, but your progression is going to be smaller than someone that does at least once or twice competition a year. Now, if you have family, kids, busy lifestyle, you can do 1 or 2 a year.
That's effectively what I'm thinking of. Just a couple of years just to see where I'm at.
Yeah. And to force yourself to go to the gym, because if you know you're going to the gym, you're going to cut a little bit more weight. You're going to do a little bit at weights that you were like skipping out for 6 months. You're like, man, I got to do this because, I have to do my squats. So there's a lot more that you're going to do in the gym if you actually sign up for something,
Yeah, I think Taylor mentioned that actually, didn't he? He said that the quickest way to progress in jiu-jitsu is to sign up for a comp. Yeah. Because he said the gym work, like you just mentioned, the gym work that you might be umming and ahhing about, you'll do that. You'll focus a little bit more. So yeah, I think it's definitely good. I mean, I'm somebody who competed a fair amount, like in my sort of, certainly as a white belt, a blue belt, not so much as a purple or a brown belt. And obviously I am sort of a little bit older and a lot of miles on the clock from jiu-jitsu as well. Family, job, kids, everything else. And I'm not really planning on competing at the moment. Do you think for me, like, do you think you can compete in the early days enough to get a feel for it and that will serve you for the rest of your journey? Or do you think you do need to be continually competing maybe once or twice a year for all the belts?
In terms of pressure in your head, it does get harder the higher the belt is. You know when people say in podcasts, belts doesn't matter, man, because that's a fashion thing to do? It does. Because if you're a white belt, you got nothing to lose, man. If you're a brown belt or a black belt and you got students or whatever it is, I'm sorry to say, you're going to get nervous, mate, because you got a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I get it.
And also pressure in your head. And I know that the people, like we said before in the seminar, people are not going to get disappointed with you because you lost a competition in a jiu-jitsu little gym when you paid for your own competition, right? They're not going to get disappointed with you, but that can be disheartening for some people. And dealing with nerves is a crazy thing because sometimes when you're in a competition and you have that heartbeat and you're like, oh my God, I just don't want to be humiliated today. And you're nervous and stuff like that. And you think, what can I do? And sometimes you're actually not so scared. You're just super excited. So the emotions of excitement and fear are very similar. So we have butterflies as well when we got excited, and we have butterflies when we're afraid. So sometimes you can confuse that and you say, I just had a horrible time, mate, because I was so terrified. But it's not. You're just excited. You want to know what's going to happen. You want to see the result right away. So I think the reality is the best way to deal with this, in my opinion, with these nerves is like not caring absolutely about nothing. In Brazil, they have this example. I pay my bills. That's it. If I lose, whatever. It doesn't make too much sense in England, but it's like saying nobody paid for me to compete. I'm fine. I don't care. I don't mind. So if I lose, I don't care. So I think this mentality is better than I'm going to go there and I'm going to smash the competition. And I'm going to message all my mates saying, look, I'm competing this weekend. That's just more pressure. Just don't mention to anyone. Keep it really quiet. Just go on your own, quietly compete. And one mate, like the two of you, for example, and then at the end, like, yeah, that was great. Had a good time. And that's it. Usually that's what it is.
Yeah, interesting. Because I think some people might argue the other way and say that, the accountability of talking about it a lot might, certainly in the prep and everything else might encourage you to do better. Do you find from your experience that it's horses for courses, that some people thrive better with the pressure and some maybe struggle a little bit more under it?
I have a difficult... I think it's very difficult for someone who's masters and again, master 5, master 4, who will never done competitive sports before, who will deal well with that kind of pressure, or kids when their parents are watching, or sometimes the parents are a bit too pushy. Now, if you are an athlete, like a good athlete, and you have 10 people there shouting at you, you grow as an athlete. But then again, you're competing in the Premier League, right? In Jiu-Jitsu, the Jiu-Jitsu Premier League. All the photographers are there. Everybody's there. So that gives you that boost, But when you're masters, I think that pressure is unnecessary. For example, let's say Tommy, sponsored by Progress. Progress will pay for his competition. There's a pressure there. Someone else is paying for you, mate, your competition. I'll pay for my own tournament. I'm Master 5. I'll pay for my own comp. That's it. And when I'm there, there's no one watching me. No one. And I just keep a little bit quiet. That's it. That will help a lot more. It's the expectations that people have about you, I think, is what creates more pressure in your head. If you don't give people expectations, you just said at the end, by the way, here's on my Instagram, I just got silver, oh, great, like that's it. And that's the reality.
Yeah. It's interesting because obviously you're in a situation where you've signed up for a competition, and because there's a purse and it's more of a professional grappling comp, there's an obligation for you to sell like tickets, to promote it online.
Yeah, it's going to be pressure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've done that. I fought Polaris too.
Okay, did you? Yeah.
I believe it was Polaris too. And I remember when I opened my Facebook, because back then it was Facebook, I had like 56 messages. And I was like, oh, that's pressure, And so obviously you just have to shut everything down in your head and just think, this is me personally. I just don't care what's going to happen. Taylor fought Roberto Jimenez, high-level grappler, in gi at purple belt. I forgot the year. It was at the Europeans, semifinals, quarterfinals, maybe. And he fought Roberto Jimenez, and Taylor came to me and said, this guy's really good, man. This guy's already... Flow Grappling was already there, ready to film the disaster was going to happen. Everybody was expecting Roberto Jimenez to smoke Taylor. And Taylor said to me, I just don't care, man. I don't care what happens. I said, yeah, that's the attitude, man. Just fuck it. Okay, great. And he went there and he did the best submission I've seen in the Euros. It was called a triangle. So if you Google it, look for the triangle. He triangled Roberto Jimenez at that competition.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then,
Yeah, that was the start of him. Yeah,
that was the start. Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it? I think like you said, with any sort of competition, even for me, I've been pondering whether to compete or not, like properly. Yeah. And I think when I got this opportunity to go on, I'm going to probably ruin the name, but Ikigai. Yeah. Yeah, it was too good to turn down with $5,000 on the line. You know, it's too good. But you know, even me in my head straight away, I'm like, right, I'm going to have to start taking my training a bit more seriously. I'm going to have to start lifting. I'm going to have to, you know, all those little
and
bits
that's great
that I was.
for you,
yeah. But even if I do shit at the comp, say I go there, and I go out first round, he'll hook me in 20 seconds, right? Yeah. But I would have learned so much more jiu-jitsu in that 6 months if I didn't do that comp. Exactly. If I do. You know, so it's only going to benefit me as a competitor, or even just my jiu-jitsu in general, because I'm going to be fitter, stronger. I'm going to, you know, eat better. I'm going to take it better. I'm going to attend more classes. Yes. You know, because you have that worry.
You're going to pay more attention on the techniques as well.
Exactly. And because this one here, obviously, we'll have a bit of pressure with it. You know, I've got to sell tickets. It's a little trip. It's going to be, you know, a lot of people watching. And again, they're calling it like, who's the best blue belt in the country? You know, and it's like, you know. Well,
that's in Manchester, yeah?
Yeah. And because it's you know, £5,000, you're going to get anyone who's anyone.
Oh yeah. You're gonna get the creme of the creme. Yeah.
So it's gonna be really cool to do. But I think I want to surprise a few people.
Yeah, I think so.
Good. Right? Yeah.
I do, because again, I haven't competed a lot.
When is it, the competition?
In May, so I got plenty of time.
So if you have one or a couple to do before, that might help as well. Like a Brighton Open.
That's
or
what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go to maybe 2 before that and
show up. Yeah, that'll help.
I'm gonna go out with B team as well out in Texas for a couple of weeks and train with them boys.
Oh wow, yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier in the seminar about, I think somebody asked you about like high level competition tactics.
Yeah.
And you kind of obviously had an answer for that. Could you maybe talk about that a little bit? Obviously with Danny's comps coming up and obviously a lot of people competing and obviously with the success that your athletes have had, I mean, what approach should you take as an athlete going into a match other than that mindset we just talked about?
I think it's very straightforward how the person looks and how their game is and how their body frame is. I would say, just looking at you probably do half guard, right? Yeah. There you go. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, let's say you wrestle a lot. No. You do a lot. Okay, so you got to get that half guard. Yeah.
I'm a guard player. I don't just play half guard, but yeah.
Yeah, but like that open half, you know, with a shield trying to get the false reap or, you know.
That's exactly yeah. Coming underneath and trying to leg lock them.
So this is we're already setting up a strategy. I hope nobody is upon it listening.
We'll edit this out.
No, I'm a wrestler.
Yeah, but this is already discussing the strategies on someone, you know, based on their game and their body frame. So I cannot expect someone to be inverting like Tommy. I don't know if you guys know Tommy Yip.
Know the name.
Yeah. So Tommy is extremely flexible. Always been extremely flexible. And he has a game that is very based on his athleticism and his flexibility, and it's beautiful to watch. I cannot have that same strategy for someone who's not flexible at all. So it goes from person to person, and you have to know your athletes. So, for example, I've been before in situations that people said to me, "Oh man, you're a good coach. Thank you so much. Can you coach me, please?" Which I don't want to be rude to anyone, and I don't want to be a prick, man. Really, I don't. I'll say, yeah, sure, but I don't show up because they're not my students, you know. First of all, the coach can say, well, what is this guy doing? Is someone else's student? And then I don't know their game. I don't know what do you do? I've never seen you train before, you know. So you have to see the person train to see what kind of game plan you're looking for, you know.
I think you made a comment as well about not sort of over strategizing going into a match.
So when the guy puts the hand here, I'm gonna do this. So what if the guy doesn't, right? So what if the guy pulls guard and you're like, oh God, you know? So now I'm done now. One thing that helped me in submission, because I was doing the early submissions only back in the day in the UK as well. I did a lot, and they're still in YouTube. I did 15 minutes as well and stuff. And one of the things that worked for me is every time I try to do a submission, and it was like 7 minutes in, and somebody defended the submission, my heart will just sink. Because I had the submission, I said, okay, I got him now. And the guy defends, oh man, this is not good. So I tell my athletes now, just ignore that feeling. So when you're going for the submission and your opponent defends that submission, just keep going. Just keep going.
We've all been in that situation,
Yeah. Especially the submission only. When you hear the crowd yelling, ignore the crowd. So I would say sometimes to the guy, stop listening to the crowd. Carry on, do your thing, man. Don't listen to the crowd. Don't get in the hype, you know. So sometimes it's not just the technical part of it as well. It's, you know, it's everything is how he's reacting to his opponent or the crowd and stuff like that, you know, or the pressure.
Yeah. And do you ever consider the opponent and their game as well? Or do you focus?
Depends, yeah. But if you're doing let's say IBJJF, right? And there's like 128 people in your blue belt division at the Europeans lightweight, it's impossible. You just have to go, man. That's it.
Yeah, just have to concentrate on yourself, innit?
Yeah, pull guard triangle, that's it, you know? You cannot overcomplicate too much as well. And I think overcomplicating in general in sports is not very good. Like you played football, right? We cannot overcomplicate too much. How do I kick that ball when you're under pressure and everybody's yelling? You just have to kick it, right?
Yeah. And I think that's exactly it. Like football, again, it's tactical, but individually, it's very off the hip. You know, it's off the cuff, isn't it? It's a million different scenarios and a million different things. You still try and get the same outcome of, you know, what your role is in the team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very different every game, you know, because sometimes you can have a centre half who's a big, massive geezer who's just going to smash every time, or sometimes you got a smaller guy who's you know, reading the game better and sags off you and gives you a bit of time, but then every time you turn, he smashes you. So yeah. And again, that's how I like my jiu-jitsu. I like it quite reactive. I still have in my head, I have things that I'm working on, and I always try and get to that position to keep working on it a little bit.
Yeah.
But how I get there is how I get there, you know.
At the end of the day, there's a lot of talk about this ecological training, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff is that ecological sparring training you do, and some specific positional sparring, and a lot of the stuff like that gets through that. However, I do see that there's a lot of intention of selling a thing that is just not there. You know, I'm sorry for the ecological people that love ecological. I did the seminar.
What, with Greg?
Yes, I did. I paid £180 for 2 seminars. I just didn't know. Long story short, one of my friends from Poland, ZR Team Poland, really good black belt, messaged me and said, Alan, I'm going to go to UK. Would you like to come to a seminar with me? And I was in the phone, busy with something else. Like, yeah, sure, I'll go. Can I pay for your seminar? Yeah, go for it. Then when I pick him out of the airport, he's like, it's 180, mate. I'm like, okay, here you go. And it was very different from anything I've seen in my entire life. The whole seminar was Q&A.
But the whole thing?
Yeah, he was speaking a lot about how DeAndre, his black belt, went to the ADCC, won the ADCC trials and was in the ADCC and a lot of stuff. And he's very convincing. If I had a debate with him here, he will smoke me here, mate, because he's smart.
Well, we potentially got him coming on in a few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But we've spoken about that as well, haven't we? About getting the right questions out of him, because he's very good at talking.
He's very smart. He's very good at talking. And I've had the feeling that anything I would say to him, it would sound stupid.
That's what I'm a bit worried about having the podcast with him, to be honest.
Right? Like, you got to read a little book, you know?
Yeah.
Existential book, yeah.
I am fascinated about what he does, though, because I honestly believe there's a hybrid of the two. That is somewhere in between. That is the perfect thing. Yeah. That's my personal opinion. But I'm so fascinated to hear about what he has to say.
Remember what we said about Jiu-Jitsu? Obviously, I don't sell as well as him, but remember what we said about Jiu-Jitsu, how Jiu-Jitsu got where it got. Because it's open.
Open, yeah.
Why you want to take that? Why you want to take the techniques? Why you want to take everything? Don't take, just add. Okay, I added the ecological training now, and I say, okay, let's work on a specific goal to do this now, to control. Great, I'm adding things. I'm not removing anything from myself, you know? Yeah,
okay. And then just back to the sort of obviously the tactics and everything, where you've got, I guess, something like an ADCC.
Yeah.
So you've got Taylor, you kind of know who his opponent is. In that situation, would you kind of approach it differently in regard to tactics? Would you look at the opponent more and say,
there
right,
was
this is
one
what
of the opponents, I think at that point he would know already what he's feeling now.
Yeah.
You know, because the whole game plan obviously for him was pulling guard, right? Like he's a guard puller. His guard is nobody was going to pass his guard. Yeah. And I knew as well. If he lost, it would have been by 1 point from the overtime, and that was the biggest fear because he wouldn't be able to out-wrestle some of the guys there. I think his second opponent probably was the hardest fight. The second opponent. It's a guy from Norway.
Is this at the trials?
Yeah, the trials. Yeah. That was the biggest fear we had. I think everyone else was like very simple, like guard pull, and then he went to the ADCC in against this guy who is a extremely good wrestler.
Yeah.
And he's been wrestling since, I don't know, maybe since 10 years old, right? So we missed that gap timing now. You cannot out-wrestle him now. What we can do is what he's been doing all his life, which is pulling guard and sit-up guard, right? But other than that, it's going to be very difficult. You see even Mika Galvão pulled guard as well against him, right? Because he's very difficult to take down. So the strategy was that. Well, I had to be pull guard, right? So the fact that he watched probably every single match of Taylor and he knew about the false sweep and he probably watched the DVD, he disengaged the entire match.
Yeah.
Which was strange because I did the rules meeting the day before with everybody there. And the referee was specifically saying that if you disengage, you will be penalized.
But you watch that match, he disengaged every opportunity.
Every single
he got.
thing, yeah. Even the Choi bar, I think there's a moment he got like him in the Choi bar and he just disengaged back as well. So I would say, obviously, he didn't get penalized for any stalling, which was strange. But it happened with someone else as well, with Mateo Jasinski. This happened the same thing. So, you know, it's what it is. Sports are like that. Football, you played. I love football as well. I played, so I know how it is as well. It's sometimes you're the much better team, but you know, or you had a great squad, but sometimes you lost to the
the tactics of the other team.
Yeah, or exactly. And you know, the guy was very scrappy as well. Like he just kept stepping back the hip. It's hard, man. It's hard to control him, you know. Yeah. But that's it. On to the next one, you know.
Yeah. Do you think he'd maybe perform better in a different rule set, like CJI, for example?
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. It's hard to say.
Because I guess you kind of mentioned about there's that obviously that skill gap with the wrestling.
Yeah, with that -1, yeah. You have that pressure.
But ADCC's, you know, it's seen the rule set seems to favour that a little bit.
I think in IBJJF, definitely, he would have won that match. He would have got an advantage there.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, especially with that Choi bar, you know. He would have probably got an advantage there.
Yeah, and I think with CJI as well, obviously it's scored by judges each round. You know, if someone's... That's why even now when I think about the final of the under-80s, you know, with Cade, and don't get me wrong, Cade was trying to pass his guard, but he didn't pass his guard in 25 minutes. So for me, it's like, what are we doing? Are we doing wrestling or are we doing jiu-jitsu? Because on jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, he didn't win. You know, how can you win a match if you can't pass someone's guard? And then when he tried pulling guard, Levi nearly passed his guard straight away. So, you know, it's always, you know, it may not be as exciting to watch, but the truth is, what are we doing? We're doing, again, what you said earlier, jiu-jitsu is not really jiu-jitsu anymore. It's something, and you know, it's
mixed grappling arts. Yeah.
And again, I think we need to maybe redefine what that is.
Yeah.
How did you find the ADCC experience in the O2? Was it the O2 that was in?
Yeah.
So I went to Europeans. Obviously, is a massive World Pro Grand Slam, which is incredible. But ADCC never. I went to UFC as well with Claudio Silva, but something like ADCC, I never seen anything like this.
Really?
Never seen anything like this. I can tell why some of the fighters were upset because they're spending so much money in production. Come on, because the production was unreal. Yeah, unreal. That was a show.
Yeah, where do you sit on that with the, you know, them putting all the money into production to try and grow the sport over actually giving their athletes money?
It's a complicated thing because if you underpay the athletes, that's how it is, right? So you just stay underpaid because you're putting everything in the show. But then I don't think the intention of anyone was paying anyone if it wasn't for Craig Jones and rivaling and putting ADCC in the corner saying, come on, guys, you know, women are not paying right and everything like that. So I don't think his intention was never to pay ever. I do think that the CGI thing was the best thing that ever happened. They even fired that gentleman that run ADCC.
Mo, he's left, hasn't he? He stepped down. I think he's doing the local events maybe and stuff like that, managing that, but he's not doing the main event anymore.
Right.
Yeah, he was high maintenance. I could see when he was walking around. He looked very nervous about when was running the event.
Yeah, because it was half empty, wasn't it, for the first day?
It was very empty. Yeah.
Which is crazy because you still think, even though CJI is going on, there's enough jiu-jitsu guys.
Jiu-jitsu is a niche sport. That's the unfortunate.
Yeah.
So you see, like, for example, I went to a game, Middlesbrough and Luton last week with my students. They took me. That's 10 times people more than that. And there was a lot more media coverage than the ADCC.
Yeah, there will be.
There's a lot more, mate.
Well, here in Plymouth, we're a championship club and we'll get 20 odd thousand every single home game.
20,000, yeah, exactly. So we're far away from the big sports events, still far away from MMA as well. Like, there is no one in Jiu-Jitsu making that much money like MMA fighters. And it's the entertainment, no matter what we do, the rule set we do, is still everyone that was there in the ADCC that I could see did Jiu-Jitsu. Everyone in the had cauliflower ear when they were watching.
The only thing I'd say is CJI definitely, like, my wife for the first time watched Jiu-Jitsu and she really enjoyed it, because I think having that pit and making sure there was no stoppages and it was just a bit more exciting. Judges, she knew he was winning every round. I think they've done an amazing job with that. And I think going forward, even though ADCC are probably never going to do it, but just having the focus on one fight at a time in that pit, I think it's the future of jiu-jitsu all round. I think if we don't adopt that as a sport, I think we're going to really struggle.
I mean, obviously the ADCC does not have a platform, but the platform is kind of died out now. Like, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
I had 2 girls in a small, low-level submission only event falling off horribly on the floor, on the chairs and stuff from submission only on the platform here in Kent. Not long ago, and it just doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. No, 100%.
But this was the whole point. The UFC introduced the cage in the early day, wasn't it? For the grappling, so you don't fall out.
Yeah.
What do you think of the kind of the inversion of that platform then with the pit or the alley?
Oh, brilliant, man.
Yeah.
Brilliant. There's a guy that used it. It was ready for a triangle. I don't know if you guys seen it. He jumped and...
Craig Jones. Yeah, Craig Jones.
Oh, no, there's another guy.
That was on Craig Combat.
Brazilian guy. Yeah, I think. Oh, no, maybe not. But it was a guy. He looked Brazilian, maybe. He stepped on it, jumped and got a flying triangle. That's amazing. Yeah. I love it. I am very progressive with things. I believe that if we all make a good living out of this, a podcast, a competition, a fight brand, we have to make sure we can't be. Old school is awful. The old school guy that is angry all the time, he's terrible for the sport. It wasn't like before. It wasn't like in the night when I came to the UK in 2000. It wasn't like this. A bunch of this and that, a bunch of sissies and stuff. It's not like this, man. Like, if I bring someone now, a blue belt, and I put him in a time machine and I make him train in London 2001, he will smoke everyone.
That's crazy.
And it's great that we evolve. I'm so happy that we evolve and people have opportunities now in so many businesses now,
But that's a great outlook, because again, you do hear, like you said, some of these guys that have been in the sport for years and years and years, and they're so stuck in their ways, and I kind of get it in a way, because they kind of like want to hold on to their, I don't know, like their sport, they want it to be, we were the founders and we were the ones who made it great. And I completely get that. But I think, like you said, to progress in jiu-jitsu, it needs to be open-minded. There definitely needs to be changes for it to be a spectator sport and for it to grow.
I did privates with my students who know the leg lock game.
Yeah.
It's not enough to watch DVD. Just DVD is not going to help you out. You don't get the details,
We just had Dima down and Owen Jones for a seminar.
Yeah.
And they done leg locks, and just the finer details was just crazy. Really, honestly, just the finer details. Knee position, Taylor's the same.
The inverted guard, that inverted guard for the toe hold, the cowgirl, The names are crazy, but it's fun, it's good fun as well.
Do you know what, though, that move, I hit it all the time. I love it.
Do it at 50 years old, I do it. From 50-50, yeah?
I do it from K-Guy quite a lot.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so you can get it quite easily from that, because you can spin.
Yeah.
But once you get it, and you can, if you hold their legs in the correct place,
it's so hard.
They're gone. They like every time I get it, they're being submitted, because they can't. There's nowhere there for them to go as long as I can stop them spinning.
Yeah, or sitting on you.
Sitting, with
the legs back. And you hold a leg, yeah. No, I love it. All these new techniques, I have to study it.
That's amazing that you do that.
And you can see other older guys like, oh, now you need this name as well. They put Kiss the Dragon. What is this? I do Kiss. I love that technique. I love it. And so it is old school now. Kiss the Dragon. It's like back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So when it came, for example, when the Mendes brothers came in, I don't know if you guys remember that. Yeah. When the Mendes, they were heavily criticized. Changes and everything. Everybody's always criticizing the new guy coming. So if you're a coach and you're listening to me, open your mind, man, because your students are going to appreciate, number one, and you're going to have a busier gym.
Yeah, man. It's exciting to see it evolve, definitely.
Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah, the 2 biggest grappling events ever was this August.
Yeah.
A massive ADCC and the CJ. I've seen grappling in all these years.
Yeah, both no-gi, though.
Both no-gi. But most of the guys that won trained in the gi.
Yeah.
that is undisputed. Like you have to make sure that when you see, even some Brazilians were trying to make a point by putting a belt.
Is that what it was? Was it?
That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. They're trying to put a belt to say, look, this is gi jiu-jitsu and we're here. Come and do gi with us. You know, they're saying. The problem with Brazilians, and obviously I'm Brazilian and I love Brazil, but the problem with Brazilians is I was talking about with him, the sense of humor is very different. The jokes is very different. The way Brazilians promote themselves is very I think a lot of Brazilians have to research a little bit more on choosing the words to say to get fans in America and England, you know. Obviously, Brazilians are heavy religious, so it's hard as well when someone says, "How did you win your match?" "Oh, it was God," you know. So it's like, "Oh, okay," you know, like.
It's weird you say that because I always think it's not God, mate. It's the hours that you've done.
Yeah, because this is the thing. What if the other person as well prayed?
Yeah.
How did I go? So you're gonna have to choose one who prayed harder. You know, it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, no.
So I think this is a lot of the things that are missing as well. For now, hopefully, I had an idea that the gi was gonna come back after ADCC, and I told to one of my students, Yanis Redskins, who actually won second in the world's in no gi worlds in California. He has a gym in Ipswich. He's one of my black belts. And I was speaking to him, and I said there will be the gi will come back after ADCC. And we knew because we knew that every single person in first and second place, besides J-Rod, trained in the gi. If we think about it.
Yeah.
Pena, you know, everyone that you think about it, they all train in the gi at some point. There's a lot of things in the gi, gripping, movement, understanding of the breaking down the techniques a lot more detailed. Like today, you know, we took the time to break down a lot of the grips and the techniques and why this works. I do think you become much more understanding of the grappling training in the gi. But then I would say at some point you just switch and that's fine when you know. But I think in the beginning it's very important for me to do both. Removing is adding more, you know. Yeah. So add wrestling, add other stuff, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. On the way over, I was asking you about sort of development of sort of younger athletes.
Yeah.
I mentioned Danny's got 11, 12-year-olds.
Yeah, 12-year-old.
I've got a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So his lad's already started.
12, you said, yeah?
12, yeah. He started to get into it first time this week.
Yeah. So my lad, he's 5, so he's been doing a bit of taekwondo.
Yeah.
We did try a bit of judo initially just to see how he got on with it, but he couldn't quite get his head around it.
Yeah.
But, you know, at home, we certainly do jiu-jitsu. You know, we're always playing a game where he's got to get past my legs, so a bit of guard passing. The teddies are getting his side, so he's bringing the knees in. So we're doing the sort of movements, but we're not teaching techniques. And I'm always wondering when I introduce him to jiu-jitsu. Obviously, for Danny's lad, he's a little bit older. But I'm just curious to get your insights, and because of your experience, obviously developing athletes from, you know, being children from no skill to you know, world champions. I mean, what's your approach to sort of introducing kids to jiu-jitsu, and then how do you develop them from nothing to being elite?
I was really surprised once when I saw an interview by Royler Gracie. I don't know if you guys know who he is. The son of Helio Gracie, and he was born on the mats, right? And he said this, my dad used to come to me, and that's the Gracie head guy, and he used to say, in this competition, if you win, you get nothing, and if you lose, I'll give you 10 pounds equivalent. And he was like, he didn't understand. And he said, later on, I understood why. He was trying to take every single pressure out of me. Of course I wanted to win. I didn't care about the 10 pounds. But that took so much pressure off my head. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I think pushy parents that travel the whole world with their kids, you're just trying to live off your child, unfortunately. Yeah. The best thing is to do... and there's another video as well. If anybody wants to watch on YouTube, is a beautiful video by the All Blacks rugby team in New Zealand, and they talk about their experiences when they were kids, and they're actually telling pushy parents in New Zealand, like, stop with your son in rugby, stop shouting, stop embarrassing me. Just think about the memories I had when I was a child is like falling off on the ground and on the mud and having a laugh with my mates, you know, and that's what the experience you want to have to your kid. You're like, when he thinks back, or maybe he's a manager in a bank or something like that, I don't know, a politician, he's going to think back and say, oh yeah, I have great time in my martial art career. Not that pressure and horror that a lot of people do. And another thing that we spoke about is you have to understand that peak time in training and conditioning, how long would it take probably is for someone? 10 years? And that's a lot, right? So if you start training high level at 7, by 17, you're burnt out, mate. You're cooked. There are a few examples, of course. People say, oh, the Rotolo. Yeah, that's a few examples. But the examples that I know of are hundreds and hundreds. I don't know if you guys remember, up north, there was the kids elite team.
No.
You guys don't hear? Yeah, there was. It was a big time back then. Doesn't exist anymore, and you guys don't even remember. They're all gone. These kids don't want to do jiu-jitsu anymore.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's like in any sport. I think, again, going back to football or rugby or any sort of sport like that, you get these child prodigies. I remember when I was growing up, kids would, they'd be better than everyone at 10 years old. And then by the time they're 18, they're not even playing. They can't even be bothered because, again, they had that pushy parent or they was at an academy and they was just overworked. They weren't allowed certain foods while, me and my friends were just going around messing around. By the time we were 18, virtually all of us were better than the lads that were in these academies and, just out getting pushed so hard. Again, there's one or two that made it, and they've gone on to be professionals and, but they're the small percentage. A lot of them drop out and they just end up doing nothing.
Yeah, and we are not football. We actually want to keep everyone training in the gym. Everybody in jiu-jitsu is very inclusive in terms of that. It's not football. You walk to a bunch of kids, like probably with me as well, like saying, you're not good enough. Gone. Oh, okay. But in jiu-jitsu, we don't have that. You're not good enough. Out. There's no coach doing that in the UK. So yeah, I think it's having like a really relaxed atmosphere about the kid playing in the gym. Lois Marsh, for example, is a girl trains in Colchester and Chelmsford, both gyms with us. She started becoming a competitor at 7 years old, and we always, her parents are really good friends of mine, and we always spoke. And the good thing about her parents is they always listen to the coaching as well. So they always took the advice from the coach. And the problem is some parents don't train because her dad is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, a very good brown belt, So he understands.
Yeah.
So if you don't train, if you're not part of it, and if you're just shouting, that's the biggest problem.
I think we had someone like that down at our gym. One of the kids was one of the dads or something down the local gym was saying to their kid, like, just get him off or something like that from mount. And I think one of our coaches got him in mount and said, "Well, try and get me off," and he couldn't. And he was like, it was the hardest thing he's ever done because if you don't understand jiu-jitsu, if someone's in mount, you're like, just stand up. Just stand up. Why can't you just stand up? But then if someone actually mounts you who knows what they're doing, you're never getting out of it. You're never ever getting out of it. You're just stuck. And again, there's so many parents that don't understand what they're putting their kids through a little bit, even with the pressure of fighting. I'm really relaxed with my lad. He plays football. And once a week, he's been, for the last year, maybe on and off, he's been going to like an MMA class on a Monday. And he was the youngest. So it was like a 12 to 16 class.
And he trains in the same gym as you?
Yeah. And he's 11. So now he's 12. And for ages he was going there and he was getting beaten up a little bit. And I was, some nights he was, "Oh, Dad, I don't want to go." And I was like, "That's fine, mate. You haven't got to go. Whatever." But this week he's been, quite consistently going now. And this week there was a lad from his school who was supposed to be some sort of thug drug dealer, like hard man from his school. Yeah. So he's a bit worried. I could see his like face and stuff, and he was a bit like thing. And then this lad has like a judo background or something as well. And then they done a roll at the end, and my lad choked him out. And he come up, and I've never seen him. He was like, "Dad, honestly," he was like, "he's just been expelled for like knocking some kid out and this and that." Everyone's scared of him. He's like, "I choked him out though. I choked him out, and I tapped him a few times." And then we come home, and he was like, "Oh, I want to go jiu-jitsu more now."
That's how it's sold.
That's it.
It's sold like this. That's that moment.
It was that moment, and that was the moment I was waiting for.
And you can't force it. You cannot say to someone, "Hey, can you act like he's winning?" It just has to be organic.
That was the moment. And again, so I've had to go and buy my gi again because his gi didn't fit. I bought my gi originally and then he never used it. Yeah. So like tried it on, it was like didn't fit. So I just bought another gi. And honestly, he was yesterday, he was so excited for his gi to come. And I've never seen him like that about jiu-jitsu. If about football, he's always loved it. He's always been football. But now he's into jiu-jitsu. Honestly, I'm buzzing. I'm like, but again, it's organically done. It's not me forcing him. So now if he starts going jiu-jitsu a couple times a week, and he starts learning, I said, mate, at your age now, at 12, 13, it's a superpower. You're going to have some you're going to have bullies. You're going to have people that will, over the next few years, especially, what's it like being a lad at 12 to 16 to 18? There's going to be a time where someone does give you a clip. There's going to be times where you're going to be put in a situation where you've got to defend yourself. I said, if you learn now and you want to learn, it's like superpower,
Yeah, exactly.
And then in regard to like the I guess the focus of training, the techniques, eventually competing? Like, when would you typically look to start introducing those sort of things?
The thing is, I had in the past kids going to, for example, a tournament in London. It was very expensive, £120 to compete. And the kid will go there. The parents will travel, nice parents as well, pay £120 for a 7-year-old to compete. There's probably only one on the bracket, or go to Birmingham or something. Expensive, hotel, parks the car, goes there, loses first round, gone. Kid is upset, the parents are upset, they're gone. So what we do now is we have our own kids tournaments, which are very cheap, very affordable, and I'm there reffing, making sure that all the kids are obviously not injured, and everybody gets a medal, regardless. The medal is very important, though. You wouldn't do that to an adult. I will never do that to an adult. But as a kid, man, as a 6-year-old, as a 5-year-old, come on, you give him that medal. It might give him that same buzz that your son had, bringing back home the medal, showing to his kids his in school. So I think finding something like that, like an inner club, like something very relaxed to start with and see how it goes, that's the best thing. Slowly. If you think the kid is a badass already, like I've seen some kids are monsters, like Jesus Christ. Like we'll walk in on the inner club and I'm like, oh Lord, he's gonna ruin our inner club, That kid, maybe, you can maybe work a little bit more with him in other tournaments. But generally, 95%, I would say, is just these inner clubs.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think early on we talked about participation medals, and I think you used Jack's football match as an example. And we weren't that keen on them. But actually, my lad did a taekwondo competition recently, and he didn't do very well, bless him. But he tried his best, and he didn't get any medals for any of the actual events that they did. And you could see how sad he was, and then he got a participation medal, and it made it all right. And he was buzzing.
Yeah. Because all the other kids have one medal.
I think it's up to a certain age.
All the kids have.
I think it's up to a certain age because I think my boy changed massively between I don't know, 8 to 11 years old, and that was it,
Yeah. You mentioned then about obviously some of those kids coming in, and you're like, oh no. Like, what's the difference between them and 90% of kids?
I think you're just born like that. It's like the zebra is born with stripes. The giraffe has a long neck. You're just born like this. There's nothing you can do.
Okay.
There is something you can change when you are a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. Yes.
Yeah.
Because then you can train. Then you can push them a little bit more. Come on, mate. Don't miss the class today. Come on. You're competing. I'm paying for your comp. Go on. It's just pushing a 5 and 7-year-old. I don't know that. I don't know. I've never done it, and I never will. But I think you can catch up. There were kids back in the day, I remember, in that elite team that were white belt kids, jacked 12-year-olds doing strength and conditioning, smoking the kids. Obviously, if you're the kid who's doing weights, you're not very good, but you're doing weights and you're training 4 times, 5 times a day. Yeah, your kid does football. Your kid does swimming. He does Jiu-Jitsu twice a week or once a week. He's going to get mold. But the problem is that kid is getting burned out. Yeah. By the time he's 17, he'll get a Taylor, a blue belt Taylor, wobbly Taylor. Boom, triangle, done. And that happened before, and I've seen it many times, So there are a freak of natures, and the problem sometimes is when the guy is a freak of nature as well, and I've seen so many people who are freak of natures, like they're just born strong, and you're like, oh man, he's so talented, why can I not be that strong, But a lot of people, when they're so talented, they get lazier, and they're more worried about their performance in the gym as well. And I've seen so many people quit that are super talented. So in a way, it's good. But they're strong and stuff. But in another way, it's too easy for them, and it just kind of like.
You hear that with jiu-jitsu all the time, though, about people. Victor Hugo. You'd never think that. When he talked about his journey, he said I wasn't any good at sports. I wasn't good at this. I wasn't. I was overweight. And then he's obviously gone on, and he's unbelievable. He's a monster.
But he could triangle himself as a blue belt.
That was crazy, wasn't it? Yeah. Do you know that? He could triangle himself.
He's so flexible, yeah. Wow, my God.
So there's almost like a calling there, though, right? Because obviously he hadn't done maybe a lot of sport, but then he walked into a jiu-jitsu mat, lost a little bit of weight, and then realised as a blue belt he could triangle himself because he was that flexible and big. So I think, like you say, there's obviously some attributes that people are born with that help.
Yeah, like flexibility is very hard to achieve it when you're getting older.
Yeah.
I work a lot in trying to get more flexible, especially my hip, so it doesn't hurt my hip.
You ever looked in that Budokan University with Cameron Ching?
No.
That's what like Sanjay and all them lot do, and Lovato. They're all into that Budokan University flexibility stuff. It's really good. We had Cameron on, and he talks a lot about longevity on the mats, and it always plays on my mind a little bit, because I think about when you go hard, and then do I do enough stretching and look after my body enough? And I'm only coming into it now, so I feel like I'm catching up. I'm trying to catch up, but I still want to be doing it. When I'm 60.
Yeah.
Still want to be doing it when I'm 60.
Yeah, it's a lot of what he does, a lot of that sort of flow yoga, so a lot of movement.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
And he's one of Lovato and Sanjay's black belts. I watch with those guys a lot. So it's definitely something that I struggle with. And it was actually quite nice today at the seminar. For the first time in ages, we finished a class and did some stretching.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. I always do. And also, look, think about this. You finish the class, at 8:30, 9? Mm-hmm. Okay, bye. Cheers. Everybody goes to the car and like, oh man, I feel like adrenaline. I go back home. I have trouble sleeping. Let's cool down.
Yeah, sensible.
Not just to stretch, but just to cool down, relax, turn off the music, let everybody chill, and everybody okay. And we're getting some good results from that.
Yeah, it's nice.
Relaxing a little bit more.
It's the only sport really, again, that you don't do a cool down.
Yeah, but we used to. Like, I feel like back in the day, this is why it was quite nice, because it was like, we used to do this. I almost forgot about it. Now you might get a couple of vegans that hang around on the mat doing some stretching afterwards. Yeah. And that's literally it. You know what I mean?
Fucking vegans.
But back in the day, after every session, we would do a bit of stretching, and that would help maintain, like I say, it would just bring you back down. It would help maintain
it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You should do it anyway.
Yeah.
We should do it anyway, just for, injury prevention. It cools you down. You'll sleep better, definitely.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed, and you will notice when you're training at 50, is the pain in the hip, because of a lot of years of doing guard, and the Asian squat, and those like really strong flexibilities in the hip that I couldn't do it, and now I do it. It's made it, I would say, 80% better. Now it completely makes me like sleep much better. I walk much better. I kind of feel loose as well when I walk.
I recommend anyone to just, if they're doing jiu-jitsu or anything, just to spend 30 minutes twice a week just doing some stretching. Look at something like Budokan University or Wadwell.
There used to be yoga for BJJ back in the day with Sebastian Broch.
He still does that, I think.
Yeah. I don't think he updated the website for a while, but I know him. He's a really cool guy, man. Back in the day, he was the guy.
Was he?
Yeah, we were very close to having him on the podcast. I think he let us down on the day.
Very eccentric. Yeah, he's very eccentric.
We're still waiting.
He's a good guy to have, man. He's got a lot of stories. He's Swedish that lives in Norway.
That's it, yeah.
And he was at Blue Belt. I went to train with him. I sparred with him once, and he massacred me so bad that I was like, wow.
What belt were you at the time?
I was black belt.
Oh, no.
I got massacred by him. Because it was just a completely different game. Because he's so flexible. Like, I put an omoplata on him. I'm like, okay. And then he scissored headlock
from an omoplata.
It's like such a great guy. I really like. Very eccentric as well. Because he was, if my memory doesn't fit, he did not have shoes on the train.
Okay.
He wasn't wearing shoes then, and he was stretching in the middle of the platform while everybody was going to work. So it's a really good guy to have, Yeah.
But I think he's quite an interesting one. Like, we'll kind of won't go too much into his story. You can talk about it when he comes on, hopefully. But I think he got into jiu-jitsu before yoga, was quite like an aggressive competitor, I think, and then just got...
He's a black belt judo.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And just got mangled. He got loads of injuries, like really jacked his back up, I think I heard him talking about. Then I think he maybe met his now wife, who was into yoga, and then developed...
They moved to a farm, but...
Yeah. And then developed his yoga game, and now obviously that's a completely different style, but he advocates for it because he was in a lot of pain through judo and then, aggressive competing in jiu-jitsu, and it's fixed everything.
I think I've got a couple of clients who've got a few back issues and bits and pieces, and they pay me, and we do stretching 3 times a week now. And I do that for an hour. So even though they're paying me, I do it with them.
Okay.
So that there has helped. You know, when I used to say to you, didn't I was getting a bit of lower back pain, I was getting a bit of this, a bit of that. That's touch wood. That's pretty much all gone. And because I'm a guard player, you know, I'm doing a lot of pigeon stretches and a lot of hamstring and hip flexion stretches and stuff like that.
That's very
it's changed it, you know, and actually helping me retain my guard. People a lot of the time will say, like, you know, your guard's getting better, or, you know, how you doing this or that. And it sometimes it is just come down to flexibility. Comes down to, you know, if you can get your knees under your armpits, it makes a huge difference to retain your guard.
Yeah, but then if you are sorry about the vegans, but if you're just vegan and you're just doing yoga, then you're not going to be strong. We're going to submit you inside your guard, man, you know. Ezekiel inside your guard, you know. It's good to have some strength as well, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the balance, isn't it? I think you've got to kind of look at where you're at. You've got to kind of almost assess yourself and your baseline, and you know, are you flexible, lacking strength? Are you know, strong, lacking flexibility? And then you kind of obviously, you know, you then accessorize from that point to support your jiu-jitsu, I guess.
But the reality is everything is very hard, and it requires a lot of dedication if you want to do something at least decent, you know. You got to get nutrition, you have to do strength training, you have to do flexibility. So it's a lot of work. But I never met anyone in life saying, oh, mate, you told me to stretch, you told me to eat well, you told me to get stronger, now my life is ruined, you know? Like, it's always the opposite.
It's only a benefit, all those things.
It's always a benefit, man, you know?
Yeah.
It's worth it at the end of the day, because then you can be 50 and train jiu-jitsu every day, man, you know? Like, that's it.
And again, like, you look at, you know, yourself, you know, I know, how old are you?
50.
You see some 50-year-olds and they look like shit. You know, most of the guys that train jiu-jitsu pretty regularly, they're in shape. You know, they're looking after themselves. They're probably eating better because it supports their jiu-jitsu. You know, you look at an average 50-year-old now. Yeah. You look at an average 40-year-old, you know, they're terrible. You know, they're terrible health, just their health in general.
I had an experience recently, you know, I was feeling a lot of like symptoms for diabetes, you know, a lot. And then I actually did a blood test with my wife, and she said, you need to check your GP. Your blood sugar is extremely high. You probably can have a coma at any point. So I went to the GP. They told me to go to the hospital. It was my first time ever in a hospital. I'd never been to a hospital before. I'd never done a surgery, never been in a hospital. I've broken fingers, but I just left it like that, you know. So when I walked in, I got diagnosed with diabetes type 1, you know.
Type 1?
The type 1, yeah, the one that your insulin just... The pancreas just stopped producing insulin. That's it. It's nothing. It's not because I had sugar or anything like that.
No, that's what's.
It's just normal. It's fine. But when I was there at the hospital, the lady came to me and said, "What were you doing this morning?" I said, "Just weights. I was training." Everyone near me was probably my age or maybe 5 years older, and they're pissing on the bed. And so sometimes these life choices that you make, man, you know, like it hurts when I train jiu-jitsu, but the pain you're gonna get when you get older, if you don't do it. If you don't do a sport or eat well, I was looking at these guys and I was like, Jesus, man, how can you get like this?
I'm a personal trainer and a coach, and the amount of guys over the years that I've had come in over 50s, and you know, I'll put them through like a super basic, you know, workout just to see where their fitness is. You know, I'll get them walking on a treadmill for 10 minutes, maybe, you know, 10 minutes on an elliptical, and then maybe some kettlebell swings and some squats. Something really super basic just to see where they're at if they're a bit overweight. And the amount of times they can't finish that, and I'm like, whoa, this is wild, you know. And they come and they go, oh, I'm not that bad, I'm not that out of shape, or I'm not, because they don't realize because they've been sedentary for so long, and then they get out of their health gets
also
so
the nutrition
badly.
is impossible to change their diet, right?
Yeah, well, it's more just about educating people. I find people in their like 50s and 60s, it's more just educating them on the right things to eat, because they're still thinking it's fine to, you know, I don't know, put butter in everything. Or like just stupid stuff, you know, where you just say, no, you don't have to cook with that, or you can change this. And, you know, they're a lot more traditional in their eating. Or then you get the opposite type of people that just eat fast food. Just get into that habit. They're super successful. They make lots of money.
They don't have time.
And they just eat shit food all the time.
And they get used to it.
And they
actually enjoy it.
They're addicted to it,
And it's hard to change your palate. I heard that it takes from 5 to 10 days to change your palate. So my coffee now has no sugar, and I always had a couple of sugars in my coffee, and I'm enjoying coffee again without sugar now.
Well, I remember the switch to no sugar drinks, you know, zero drinks. You know, when I'd probably done that at like 19 or 20. And, you know, that was the weirdest thing. You know, I was always drinking full fat Coke. And then for the first couple of days, I was like, "There's no way I can drink Diet Coke. No way can I drink Pepsi Max." And then I couldn't imagine going back now. You know what I mean? Like, I say that to all my clients when they're it's like, don't drink calories. Trying to lose weight, don't drink calories. It's the most stupidest thing in the world, isn't it? But yeah, it does. It just takes a bit of adaptation, doesn't it? Just to switch over.
It's not that long. Like people
it's not.
think.
No, you get used to it, and then the weird thing is, then you start to enjoy it. It's a bit weird at first, and then boom,
Yeah,
and
also
then
it's when you're like, oh, I'm too old for this. Oh no, mate, no, I'm just tired all the time. Well, you're tired because you don't work out. You just lay on the sofa all day. You get drunk at night. Not drunk, but you have like a glass of, like a bottle of wine with your missus every night. Come on, man.
Yeah, and then I think obviously, like you just mentioned, so type 1, that's obviously an autoimmune condition. So some people, just have stuff that is unavoidable, and it's just a bit of potluck.
Yeah.
I think some people allow that to then, control and dictate them, what they do, and they're like, well, I can't do this because of this.
Well, they use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, I always liked vegetables. Because, like, always enjoyed a lot of vegetables. I love onions. I love vegetables. And protein, eat a lot of meat. And, so for me to change, it wasn't that big of a change, really. My life hasn't changed that much.
No.
Besides having processed sugar all the time, then other than that, I don't.
So how are you finding the management of it now then? Are you having to inject insulin?
Yeah, in the beginning was very difficult because first I'm terrified of needles. I never had needles in my life. Like only took my ears when I was young. But so in the beginning everything was strange, considering that honestly I was always very intolerant with people's illnesses as well. That's how I changed now.
Okay.
Because someone didn't come to train and they're ill. Oh, fuck, Jesus Christ, man, this guy. And I feel like I'm much more understanding now. So that was good for me as well to that to happen as a person, But in terms of like my lifestyle, it hasn't really like changed that much, no.
Yeah. And did you mention? I think on the car ride over, did you say you were doing something to raise awareness or for charity?
So in Reef, my gym in Chelmsford, what happened is I was very impressed the way I was treated at the Broomfields Hospital in Chelmsford. I'm not being sponsored by them. But the treatment with these nurses and everyone there was just incredible. They were calling me on the day off as well, and they were brilliant. And I was like, I have to do something. And they're like, no, don't bother. I said, I need to do something. So we're going to do a little charity event in December in my gym in Reef. And we're going to bring a couple of the nurses as well, just to do a little awareness speech for diabetes, and all the proceeds are going to go to the diabetes department in the Broomfields Hospital, just in exchange of the good work they do to everybody, probably,
Yeah, awesome. And where are the details for that too? Is that on your socials and stuff?
Yeah, anyone can go to the ZRT UK Instagram and message me, and I always reply my messages. So.
Yeah.
Even if it's rude.
yeah, awesome, man. I just wanted to finish up, maybe sort of, you mentioned obviously Taylor a fair bit, and obviously you had him from a very young age. What age was he when he started competing? Or when he first started training?
Maybe 14.
Yeah. And you referred to him as floppy earlier, and I think
he was so floppy.
Yeah, and I think he maybe even mentioned himself that he wasn't necessarily like a natural athlete.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, like using maybe Taylor as an example, but just sort of generally speaking, like someone sort of starting jiu-jitsu, like what's been the key to his success?
Work ethic. This boy will show up no matter what. Like he once he was a blue belt, and he was still a kid, and I put him in the adult division. I could be wrong, but I put him in the adult division in AGP or something like that, like really old school one. Maybe not AGP, sorry, but one of those tournaments, and I put him there, and he got his foot broken. His foot was purple, and I said to him, "Mate, don't train tomorrow." You know what happened the next day? He was there. This is the difference, with him. He worked super hard. So he didn't have the talent, but he had the work ethic, which I think overpasses sometimes. There's a weird story because there was another kid who was extremely talented, and his nickname was Mini Me.
Okay.
He used to do flying arm bars and triangles and everything like that. And he had a sponsorship. He had everything. And he would put the timer and say, I'm going to tap Taylor in 10 seconds. I'm going to tap you in 30 seconds or something like that. And he'll tap him in. That kid was extremely talented. But the kid today is nowhere. The kid works in a really terrible job. He just couldn't keep it. He was too talented. Mm-hmm. And Taylor eventually took over the sponsorship. And when he came back to the gym after 6 years, and Taylor said, Alan, can you put me with him? I said, mate, you're going to lose him if I put you, but obviously I can't protect him, so that was it.
But again, that does beat talent.
Yes.
Like you talk about Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi and people like that. They talk about it like they have talent, but the reason they are the best ever is because it's talent with work ethic. That's the difference. How many, we all know someone who's super talented at something and then they just don't try. They just don't try. They think it's easy and then they just fucking give up, And it's such a shame, isn't it? Because again, those the 1% that have talent and then work ethic, they always make it to the top. Cream always rises.
Yeah. And I think, Owen Jones talked about Taylor's his guard passing as well. So he's obviously a very well-rounded practitioner, but as you said, certainly in competition, he's got a game that everyone's aware of, which he kind of ran through the trials with and submitted everybody. When did he start developing that style, and where did that come from? Was that
the leg lock?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought you were going to say the heavy top pressure. The heavy top pressure, I believe, from Purple Belt. We spoke about him being a little bit loose because he was so young, And I said, you need to put the pressure like a black belt pressure, You need to be a purple belt with black belt pressure. And but the leg lock game was something he developed on his own.
Okay. Really?
By cross-training, traveling. And you had to travel. The information wasn't there really of that leg lock style that we did. Obviously, we did straight foot locks, toe holds, and stuff like that, knee bars. We did some heel hook. Actually, if you go to Polaris 2, I won my match with a saddle.
Okay.
But no one knew it was a saddle then when I did it. You can Google it and see it. It's like crazy. And my opponent congratulated me after the match and said, really good 50-50 there, mate. Which we called it honey hold then.
Honey hold.
And... So, we do what we can, but the whole false read back game, he really got through cross-training and traveling and putting the effort, his work ethic is incredible.
And his guard is absolutely outrageous.
It's insane, yeah.
It's outrageous.
And I do have to say, it partly is the gi, the understanding of the positions in the gi. That helped him a lot not to get his guard pass, because you see guys that are high level like him, sometimes they get their guard pass as well, because they didn't have that training, that understanding of guard passes. They're just focused on that submission, But I think the gi definitely helped him.
Yeah, I remember him saying that when he, I think it was maybe the Euros, I think his first big no-gi comp that he did. I think he said that he basically didn't have a no-gi game. He just played his normal game.
Not just him. Let's put it that way. You go to Roger Gracie Academy, nobody was doing no-gi there.
Yeah.
The most of the gyms, once a week, twice a week, some gyms will still do the open hand stuff, It was really very new for everyone when the whole Renzo Gracie thing came in. It was very new. It was like the berimbolo. When the berimbolo came, it was very similar. Everybody was doing berimbolo in Brazil, and we saw the videos, the Mendes. How do you do that? We're second guessing it. We are trying to guess it. We're doing it wrong. Some of our students were hating. My students were hating berimbolo, but it was wrong. So we had to bring a guy from Brazil to do a seminar with us so we can learn. And we did learn, yeah. So it's like this,
So I think just with that example, it's pretty much everything we've talked about, isn't it? It's it's showing up, it's the hard work, it's training in the gi.
And some people, it's a cliche. It's not that. I want the shortcut. I want a coach that tells me what I want to hear, and I want that shortcut. And unfortunately, that's what's happening now. People are rushing too much into becoming coaches, just like that, like giving the pretty word, convincing very easily people to do it, and you just have to watch out, because a lot of people are just interested in themselves. And I think the job of the coach is a secondary job. So I'm in the background. Nobody knows me. You don't need to know my name. I'm behind everybody. And when you are a very narcissistic coach, you have to watch out when somebody's more interested in themselves when they coach you, especially if you're a good athlete.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, we'll let you go in a second, but thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to sort of say before you go? I know you're traveling quite a bit at the moment. Any seminars or anything you got coming up?
I know, yeah. I'm going to Serbia next week, first time in Belgrade. I'm looking forward for it. And but I definitely would like to come back to Newquay. I have really good memories in Newquay when I came down my first time, and it's beautiful. Seemed like very different than other places in England. I loved it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Cheers, mate.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you very much.